In this video, I'll run through the first step in the process of taking a file through WARDCAM. So I've already opened up WARDCAM here. This is the first screen that you see. So on the screen here, you've got the option of either going straight into the shape library if you want to do one of the parametric shapes, or you can open a DXF or DWG file here. You can also go up to File and Open to open it there. Other options up here, you got a Help menu. Click on About WARDCAM. It'll show you what revision level you're at here. And then also, if you want to update your WARDCAM, you can click on this WARDCAM site button, and this will bring you to this page here. And down here, we've got the WARDCAM section. You can click on this and download the latest version of WARDCAM and install it. Other things you can get to here, you can get into your machine and material databases, which we'll get into in a different video. Shapes can also bring you into the shapes library, and then file. So we'll go ahead and click on the open button and actually show you one other thing here. Down in the lower right hand corner, you have the choice to toggle between imperial and metric mode. So if you know that you're going to be opening up a file that's drawn in millimeters, you want to click on this first, and then you can click on open. And I've got a bunch of metric DXF files here. I'll open up this one here, which is supposed to be 150 by 200 millimeter rectangle. And then to verify that it is the correct size, down here in the lower left-hand corner, it shows our XY coordinates for our cursor. So if I hover over close to the lower left-hand corner, pretty close to 0, 0 down there, and then if I hover up at the upper right-hand corner here, I can see that my X and Y now are about 150 by 200. So this indicates to me that this is drawn at a 1-to-1 scale, and it is in metric mode. So go ahead and close this. A couple options for closing. You can either click on File and Close, or you can also down here on this tab, if you click on your middle scroll wheel on your mouse, then you can also have the option to close a file. And I'm going to switch back to Imperial or inch mode here. And we'll go back to Open, and I'll grab a different file. If you click on this little menu here, you can see all the different file formats that we can open. So we do also support now DWG files. And we'll go with this one here. So with your mouse, you got your scroll wheel. You can roll the middle wheel on your mouse backwards, forwards to zoom in, zoom out. If you're zoomed way out, if you double click on your scroll wheel, it'll fill up the extents of your screen with the parts. If you hold down on your scroll wheel, you can pan around. And then for selecting things, by default, this select tool is activated. If you do have a different command activated, if you press the escape key on your keyboard, it'll always bring you back to the escape button, or you can just click on the, the escape key will bring you back to the select tool, or you can just press escape and it'll go back to the select tool being active. And then for selecting things, if you click and hold and drag a box from left to right, whatever you're trying to select has to be entirely within the box. If you drag a box from right to left, whatever you're trying to select just has to be touching or within the box. So if I want to select these two lines here, drag a box from right to left, so left click, drag, and then release, and it'll select those. If I want to select additional things, I can hold down my control key and select. If I want to deselect something that I've selected, so if I inadvertently select that, I can hold down my control key and select it again, it'll deselect it. So as long as you keep your control key held down, then you can toggle between selecting and deselecting. And then if I press escape, then everything will be deselected. So working across the top here, we have a layers box. So if somebody drew something in multiple layers, you can use the layers tool here to filter things down. So this drawing here, we've got some information on a 0 layer, and hopefully the dimensions are on this dimension layer. Got the little eyeball next to each layer, so if the eyeball is dark like this, then that means that that layer is visible. If you click on an eyeball, that eyeball becomes kind of shaded out, and then if you click out of that layers box, then that layer is now hidden. So it's still there, but it's just not visible. And if you click on the eyeball again and then click out of the box, then that layer will be back. And if you have this pulled down and you click on the layer, you'll switch to that layer. So one thing to be careful about is if I, for example, switch to that dim layer and then I turn that dim layer off and then I try to like draw something, disappears because I'm on the dim layer and the dim layer is turned off, so anything that I do is going to disappear as soon as I get out of that command. So sometimes customers might want to like copy something. So if I, for example, select this, then I use the copy tool down here, which we'll get into in a little bit, and because I want to do like a manual nest of something, and I'm clicking and I don't see anything. Again, it's because I'm on this dim layer, which is turned off. If I turn that dim layer back on, then lo and behold, there's all that stuff that I copied. So we do have undo and redo buttons here. So if you do something wrong, you can go back and forth and revert back. And then the ortho button up here is used if you're doing things like moving and copying and you just want to move in 90-degree increments, then you can turn on the ortho buttons. So if I want to draw a line, click on the line button. And if I turn on the ortho button, so blue means it's on. If I left click, then I can only draw this line in 90-degree increments. So when you're doing things like lines and things like that, when you hover towards the end of a line, you'll see a little blue box will show up. That indicates that if you left click, then you'll snap right at the end of that line there. Now, WARDCAM is not meant to be a CAD package, so if I want to draw a line of a specific length, I can't do that. I can approximate it, but basically this line tool is meant as a cleanup tool here. So for example, on this file here, we've got this big gap here, so I can use this line tool to close that up. So since my line tool is active, hover near the end of this line, the blue box shows up, I left click, and then hover near the end of this line till the blue box shows up and left click, and now I've closed up that geometry. So that's the line tool. If I hit escape again, it goes back to the select tool being active. Next box option down here is the rectangle box. So this is used to force your lead-ins to be on a particular side of a cut. So sometimes you'll get a situation where you might want to maybe cut this rectangle and you're cutting it out of a piece of bar stock. If I just quickly process this here as it is and wait for this. All right. So if I add a toolpath on this right now, it's going to put my lead on the wrong side because it thinks that I'm trying to keep this part. So the box tool or the rectangle tool can be used to switch the lead to opposite sides. So if I now draw another rectangle around this rectangle, so I left click, drag, and left click again, and then hit my next button. Again, we'll get into these other screens here in future videos. But now I go to add a toolpath to this cut here. Now it puts the lead on the proper side. So this will not, this area in the middle here is now that my scrap are what's gonna drop out. So. All right. And zoom out, and we'll get rid of that. Okay, so that's the rectangle tool. Point tool can be used if you want to do something like do an abrasive pierce. You want to just pierce in the center of this hole here, activate my point command, and when I hover near the center of the circle, see that blue circle shows up, that indicates that when I left click, that'll put that point right at the center of that circle. So then in the next step in the process, I'll be able to pick up off that point and tell it that I want to do either an abrasive pierce or a drill command, or you can actually program the machine just to stop. So if we want to, we can, in the next step, we'll see how we're able to pick this point here as a stop function. Got a delete button. So if you want to delete things, you can activate your delete command, and then you can just individually click on things, or you can select things and then click on the delete button, or you can select things and you can just press the delete key on your keyboard. So a few different ways of deleting. I guess we'll leave that deleted. Trim command, so if we've got some lines that are extending beyond the geometry here that we want to cut, activate your trim command, and then click on the lines that you want to get rid of. and it'll trim them up to their intersection point there. This explode button can be used if you need to basically manipulate geometry that's connected as one geometry. So right now this rectangle is one entity. So if I did want to just delete this top line here, for example, if I use my delete button, it's going to delete the entire thing because that whole rectangle was one polyline or joint entity. So if I use my explode button and then select this, now we'll find if I go back to my select tool that I'm now able to select the individual lines in that geometry. And then we've got down here things like move, copy, rotate, scale, and mirror. So I'll just work with this little rectangle here for these ones down here. So for any of these commands down here, you have to select something first before you do it. So I'll go ahead and select this rectangle. So if I want to move it, I just click on the move command. Down here at the bottom, it prompts me for base point for move. So if I do want to move from a specific location, like endpoint of a line, and I want to move it to endpoint of that line, I can do that. Or if I just want to do a general move, I can just select it and do my move command, base point for move, just click wherever and move it. Same type concept with the copy command. So since this is already selected, click on the copy command, base point for copy. So if I want to copy from here down to here and so on. So that's your copy command. Rotate command, again, select, click on rotate, base point for rotation. I'm going to rotate from here. And then if I do want to rotate just 90-degree increments, since my ortho button is already turned on, as I move my mouse around, you'll see that that rectangle just gives me that ghost image of the 90-degree increments. If I want to rotate a specific number, like I want to rotate this 30 degrees, I can just start typing in on the keyboard how much I want to rotate it by and hit enter, and it'll rotate it. Scale command works in a similar fashion. Select this, select my scale command. So if I wanted this to be twice as big, select a base point for my scale. So we'll click down here. And if I want this to be twice as big, I just type 2 on my keyboard. And as I start to type, this dialog box shows up, hit enter, and now this is twice as big. And there's also a mirror command. So to make this a little more interesting here, let me just draw a rectangle in here and trim this up a bit so we can see what's going on. So I'll get rid of this stuff here. All right. So now I want to mirror this. I can select it and do that and use my mirror command, select the base point for mirror. So if I want to, I can click right on the end of that line there, and it mirrors it and copies it. There's no gap there because I clicked right on the end of that line. If I want to give myself a little bit of a gap, select it, do my mirror command, click a little bit off the edge of the part, and then drag across. And then again, since I've got my ortho command selected, it'll only mirror it in the 90-degree increments. So those are those commands down the left side there. And we already talked about the coordinates down here. There is no measure tool, so unlike TrueCAD package, you can't click and measure from midpoint to midpoint, things like that. The best you can do is, again, just hover the mouse and look at those coordinates and get an idea of approximate sizes. And then there are tabs down here, so if you do have multiple files open, I'll just go ahead and open another file here. So if you do have multiple files open, you can switch back and forth between the tabs. And again, if you want to close something, you can just click on your middle scroll wheel, and you can close something that way. All right, let's get rid of that stuff. And we'll just select it and delete it. And then top right-hand corner up here, you've got the different steps in the process that we'll walk through in the other videos. Once you're done with your geometry screen, you can just hit the next button and it brings you to the part screen that we'll talk about in the next video. Thanks.